Almost a year ago, I bought this Caterpillar D9G Bulldozer, and I have absolutely no intention whatsoever of using it as a bulldozer. I wanted it for heavy recovery on tanks and things like that, which is more useful to me. Weighing in at almost 40 tonne, it makes light work at pushing huge objects. Just to prove my point of its brute strength, here it is pushing a 15-tonne excavator like it's a matchbox tool. Later in the year, I decided to partner up with our friends at Crouch Recovery and turn this bulldozer into the ultimate winch recovery vehicle. So we took the blade off and took it to our friends at One Fabrication, where the blade would undergo major surgery. And this is where I'd see my new favourite thing, and it's a swift cut CNC plasma table, and it makes light work of making any bracket or anything you could possibly want. You can draw it up on this computer in about 2 seconds, and within about 15 minutes it'll cut out whatever you want. Now this is 20mm steel, and we were cutting some gussets for the rear of the blade for the strengthening plate where the winch is going to sit, and while we had a cup of tea it did it. So incredible bit of kit. So Adam's putting this gigantic piece of strengthening plate on the back of the blade, and that's because we keep getting people go, "Oh, the blade's designed for pushing, not pulling, it won't work." So we're making it extra strong to cope with this. Now, we're never going to use the blade in a situation where it's not pushed into the soil. So the whole idea is we're going to use the bulldozer to dig in until the blade is in the ground and then winch. So using the blade as a massive ground anchor, it will dramatically take the pressure off the top of the blade when we're pulling really hard. Now, one of the things that easily gets overlooked when you're doing a project like this is when you're welding something like this, it has to be turned over and changed about so the welders can get at different angles and put brackets on in different places. And all that's all well and good, but the blade weighs probably the best part of 6 or 7 tonne. So we have to use the Mercedes 6x6 heavy recovery. And I think the Atlas crane on the back can lift about 15 tonne, so it's more than boss for this job. But it's needed for just turning it round, flipping the blade over and just getting it out of the shed, which is quite a big ball ache and quite dangerous if you're not careful. So if you're wondering where the Foden is, that's back at base in the main workshop, and we're using that to shunt tanks around and take gearboxes out. So the poor old Mercedes is permanently over at One Fabrication. Permanently over at One Fabrications. Why we're doing this job, as it's needed every now and again to flip the blade over and move it around. If you're wondering why I'm looking particularly simple at this point while trying to get the blade out of the shed, it's not my workshop. My friend owns the building, so I'm a bit worried that if it slides and smashes the door off, I'll be in for a severe telling off, which I don't want to do because the shed's about a year old.
Your steering got a bit lighter. That power steering upgrade hanging that on the back.
So we need to flip the blade round onto its back. We didn't want to do it on the concrete in case it ended up slipping and smashing a great hole in the new concrete. So we took it over to the soil where we'd attempt to do it over there.
Just go out a little bit, Joe. Yeah, just. Oh yeah, you're well clear. This is perfectly safe. No. Not far off.
Not a mile off, no. I just, if to get the change back in the centre, just move it in. Move in.
I think we're going to need a bar before we move anywhere.
That's a 6 time I've bent that actual wing. That one I've not bent once. I came to step in and I folded that in on. I don't know why I keep bending that one, but that's the one. I'm going to have to cut it off.
It's funny how 200 ton of blade will do that to a wing, isn't it?
I didn't even notice it did it, to be honest. It was so quiet, delicate.
Experts at accidents. That's not bad.
With the blade delicately and professionally turned over with no damage whatsoever, it was time to take it back in the shed for further fabrication. Several days later, I returned to see how the lads were getting on. It wasn't long before the lads were ready for us to lift the blade up to change the position for more welding. And typically, the 1980s remote has failed on the back of the Mercedes.
Great remote, isn't it? Isn't it the greatest? 1986.
That was working.
I'd sit on the crane. No, he's going to stand it up on them and then bring it forward and lay it down. He seems confident. That's what I would have thought. There's wells in the gap. Behind. I think it'll probably be alright.
One wrong move now and the blade could slide off the trestle, spin round and knock a hole in the side of One Fabrication's nice new workshop.
why I bought a new one.
So the two brackets we've fitted on the top corners of the blade are for swinging eyelets where we can fit snatch blocks if needed. And this is the winch we're going to fit. This is the Broughton or Brighton or whatever it's called, the 35-ton winch. That's going to sit in the middle of the blade on that plate that One Fabrication's made. These are the swinging eyelets and the big shackles we're going to use. And here you can see the rear of the blade where we've really beefed it up to help with its pulling instead of pushing. But now for the exciting bit, the trial fit of the winch.
All right, Dave.
There we go.
Well, that don't look too bad. That's the wrong way round. Dave,
the wrong way round.
That's the wrong way round, Dave. Or we might need a hammer and knock those bolts out.
Order a new winch so we can put it the right way.
Yeah. I think we're going to have to address those studs.
Smash it back.
They might not go back. Might have to unthread them ones. I think those corner ones are threaded into the winch. We'll grind them off. Yeah, threaded in. About half a foot. Are you doing your side? You probably come over there. Go up a bit. Yeah. Lowering down. Probably just want far in central, so it looks awesome already, doesn't it? That was great. Mr. Flip Flop. Mr. Flip Flop. Makes a change from Juan Fab.
It's nearly in. Down a little bit more, Joe. Only a bit more. Keep going.
I was touching the back plate this time,
Pushing the back plate this side nearly. So.
Is that a bit much?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, what a beauty.
And that is flush as well. That's where it's going to sit.
Is it sitting flush, yeah? Should we put a G-clamp on it and take the forklift away and watch it fall on the floor? Couldn't have got that any better.
The two plates come together like that,
Yeah.
and they've been welded down the seam, so there's already
Go in the middle.
rebate.
Go in the middle, Dave.
Not going there now because you
Because I suggested something
putting it in the
sent.
middle. All right, let it down.
I'm going to get out of the way. Boosted launch.
Faster it's happening.
Don't care what anyone says, that looks great.
So that's the first trial run fitting the winch, and it fits absolutely perfectly. And I think looks fantastic. And obviously, if it looks good, it's going to work good. Yeah. So there's a few other things that people are whinging on at us about, and that's the strength of the arms. Because like people saying, oh, that's for pushing, not for pulling. So those arms there that are holding the top of the blade aren't going to stick the strength of the winch when it's pulling on it. So using my incredible IT skills, I'm going to show you on this drawing here with this red mark. We're basically going to put a big beam in that goes from the top of the blade down to the very rear of the blade where it anchors there. And it'll be a fixed beam because we don't need it to articulate because we're not making banks and we're not using it as a bulldozer. We're also going to fit some crazy bar armour to the front of the cab, extra protection in case a cable, well, we say cable snap, it's more in case a D-link fails or an eyelet breaks off. This is what happens when a cable snaps of this size. So just in case of a failure like this or an eyelet breaking off, this is what I mean by bar armour and sort of what I'm going to do with the cab on the D9, only a lot stronger and angled to try and deflect anything like that. That's sort of what I got in mind. So it is going to look pretty cool. Not quite this cool, but you get the idea. And next time you see this blade, hopefully it'll be back mounted on the machine. And then, of course, we're going to have to paint the machine. So we've already started making our own homemade paint booth in the tank hanger workshop. As this year coming, we have quite a lot of interesting projects that I'm not actually quite yet allowed to share with anyone, but we're definitely going to be doing some interesting things, and we're definitely going to need a large paint shop to make a nice job of them. And a paint booth of this size would probably cost around £50,000, and that's £50,000 I don't have. And as always, I hope you've enjoyed the video, and we will see you again in the next episode of whatever the hell it is we're doing. Goodbye.